Hello, hello. What's up? What's up? It is a new day, it is a new week, and it's time to get social. My name is KaVonna, and welcome to the Introvert's Social Hour. Welcome. Today is a pretty special episode. Today I brought my mom to the podcast. Woo woo. I brought her here. I brought her here to talk about her journey as a parent, specifically as a young one, and she'll tell you more about what that story looks like for her. But also what being a parent looks like today, especially in regards to our relationship as mother and daughter. This is a very detailed episode in regards to like getting a little bit more into my life. So you may get more info, or if you already know me, you know this info, but you might get a little bit more detail. But yeah, just something a little different and fun to explore. So please welcome my mom, Keauna. Here's her first name.
Hi.
Hello, hello. How are you doing today? How's life?
Okay, I cannot complain.
Okay, okay. So I do want to give like an audience understanding and a background to kind of like who you are and like your life and like currently right now as a mom. So can you share your experience on becoming a mom for us?
So I got pregnant with KaVonna my sophomore year. I was 15 and I had her right before the summer, right before my junior year. And that's just pretty much how everything started for us. Young high school mom.
Okay. And then I know this answer, but how many children then do you have now from beginning to now?
Do-do-do-do-do. Six.
So she
KaVonna is my oldest. And then I have another daughter, and she's 5, and I have 4 boys in the middle. But KaVonna is my oldest.
yep, yep, yep. I do want to know, what were your thoughts when you found out you were pregnant with me?
My first thought was my mother is going to lose her mind.
And did she?
Uh, She did. She did initially.
Yeah.
She did, and she was not happy with me my entire pregnancy. But then, of course, as of now, you and her have a really good relationship and super close and a really good bond.
Mhm.
So I think once she saw you, that changed. Yeah, she was super strict. I didn't go to prom or anything,
Mhm.
but I appreciate her for being so strict. Now that I look back on things today.
Yeah. Um, so you were one, like afraid of like what your mom was gonna say. What about
Mhm.
like everybody else? Or like like what were your thoughts in regards to the fact that at 15 you were gonna have a whole like human being to take care of?
I really didn't think about other people because the sad part is during that time, the late 90s, there were so many teen moms.
Mhm.
There were teen moms I went to school with that had 2 children already, and they were still in school. So, what somebody else said, as now, it really, didn't matter then, just as it wouldn't matter to me now. It was just packing you up, going to school, loading the stroller, things like that when you were getting looks from, people because you're holding, maybe the bus up, I would say. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, what other people said didn't really matter then.
Okay. And then what about like your internal like thoughts in regards to like how your life was gonna change?
I did not get to do anything.
Yeah.
Anything I did, I had to take you in your stroller, and um, I
Well,
don't
let's say
know.
before you had me though, like while you were like pregnant, like what were you thinking? Like what was your thought process for, I mean, obviously you knew things were gonna change and you were gonna,
Mhm,
you know,
mhm.
have a huge kind of like new kind of life transition in a way.
Just didn't know what to expect.
Mhm.
Just I have this little human. I didn't have a job. At the time I couldn't even really get a job, so just didn't know what to expect.
Mhm.
I couldn't take care of me, so it was like, how was I going to take care of you? I mean, it all worked out. However, that was my thought. Childbirth, you hear all the stories, and the
Mhm.
internet wasn't so savvy as it is now, so you just hear other people's stories, which of course everyone's story ultimately is different.
Yeah. Um, so let's say like afterwards, so then moving in afterwards, what emotions and like challenges did you go through while you were like raising me before? So the next sibling that came was like 3 years after me. So say like before he came, what were those challenges and struggles?
I didn't have a break.
Mhm.
um I did not finish high school, but that was partly because uh I worked full time. So um yeah, independent studies. And then I don't know if you remember, but your dad was, into trouble as a teenager.
Mhm.
So, he was away.
Mhm.
So it was really like me and whatever support that I had at that time from my family. But everyone was busy and had their lives. My grandmother helped out when she could, but she
Mhm.
wasn't close by.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a struggle, of course. I'm young. I didn't know what I was doing at that time.
Yeah. It's like figuring it out, which
Right.
I feel like what I hear is like a lot of parents kind of have to figure out anyways. You just had to figure it out like
Hmm.
while you were also like still a kid, which is always
Right.
interesting too. What support systems and resources did you use or come across that did help in those times when it was challenging?
Well, the school that I went to, they had a child care there, and the ladies that worked there, I don't even know if they're still alive. Hopefully they are. But the ladies that worked there, they were like super helpful and like welcoming, and they helped out during my school hours. And actually my sister, your aunt, of course, would help
Mhm.
out, sometimes. And of course, your grandmother, when school was not in, also too, you know, your other grandmother, she would help out sometimes as well. So I don't really want to discredit her. She
Mhm.
would help out, sometimes.
Okay. I do want to note to the people, fun fact, um, the school that I was in childcare for was the school I ended up going to for high school
Right.
years down the line. So that's a
In
funny
the high
story.
school you ultimately graduated from. Right.
Uh-huh. We ended up having like two of the same teachers, which I think is funny. Um, so yeah, shout out to them. And they're still there too, I think. At least Miss King is. Um,
Okay.
so but you kind of gave some details a bit, but I do give me a breakdown of a day-to-day life of a teenager with a child. So you wake up, what does that process look like until the end of the day?
So I used to wake up. I would try to get myself dressed first, of course, because that's easy. Um, Hoping that you slept, but you were a super cranky baby. You were very colicky. So sometimes there was no sleep. I don't know what was going on back then, but yeah. And then I would get, myself dressed. I would get you dressed, pack your diaper bag, put you in your stroller, walk to the bus stop. At that time, I'll call two buses to school, and then get to school, drop you off at childcare, unpack your bottles for the day because I had to pre-make those, unpack your diapers. And then when you started eating food, I had to take your food, put all your stuff in your little cubby, go to class. After school, do it in reverse, plus homework.
Yeah.
um Once I started working full time, I would catch the BART, which of course is our subway system here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I would have to go, to 3 cities over to take you to my grandmother's house, just to go all the way back by my house to work, then go all the way back and pick you up and go all the way back. So there was a lot of, obstacles during that time.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't want to know. I would just like I wanted to get like a little mini breakdown of that. Before we do transition onto like our relationship over time. So, I did want to ask, this is like a curiosity question. What kind of dreams or goals did you have before becoming a mom, and how did they shift or evolve afterward?
So actually, I wanted to become a registered nurse.
Okay.
That was like my focus and my goal. And then at some point I wanted to go to Job Corps. So I shifted, but I always went back to registered nurse. But the schooling that it takes, I was unable to do it at that time. And then I ended up having your brother, and life just kind of went on like survivor mode. I had to take care of my children. But that's was my wow plan at that time.
Would you if given the opportunity to switch your career right now, would you like go to school and like become a registered nurse? Would you still want to do that? Like work at the hospitals and stuff?
No.
Okay. So change.
Only because that is a lot of schooling, and kudos to all the registered nurses in the world, because we definitely need you all, just as, all medical professionals. But where I'm at right now, no. Would I switch my career? Yes. To nursing, no.
Okay. Curiosity question on top of that. What would you switch it to? Like if you could do anything?
If I could do anything, I would finish school, because I have schooling. I obviously just didn't finish. I would get my degree so that I can go back into probation.
Oh, okay.
Working in probation for so long, but on a clerical level. And I worked with a lot of amazing people with the probation department that I worked for. That's what I would do. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Okay, cool.
Helping, the youth. Let me be clear. Juvenile probation. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was my next question. Okay, cool. In connection with that, I do want to say, or did want to ask, how did like having a child at a young age, kind of, or did it more so, did it impact your relationships with like friends, family, etc.?
I'm going to say no. My family, let me be clear. My close family members have always been pretty consistent. Whether consistently supportive or consistently distant. So I won't say it impact. I think me and my mom had a strained period of time, because I felt like she didn't support me enough and she should have supported me more. And I don't know what I expected at that time, but ultimately looking back, she made me, take care of my responsibilities. So I don't say anything was strained. Friends, most of us had kids. Some were pregnant, some already had kids around that time frame. So I'm gonna say that I can remember, and I would remember. I don't remember anything being like strained with the people that were in my life at that time.
Okay, that's good. Okay, cool. Okay, so moving on to like our relationship and like your relationship with like your children and kind of like how that's evolved. So obviously we've changed over the years.
Right. Right.
I've grown up, and then you've grown up and then also like kept growing as well.
Right.
And with that time you also like get wiser. Something recently that popped up that I was curious about was there was like a tweet that was like, they say parents never stop worrying no matter how old their child gets. Like it's like the worries never stop, but what you
Mhm.
worry about changes.
Mhm.
Um, so what were some worries you had from like my early childhood into my like teen years into now? How did those change?
So early childhood, I never will let you spend a night at people's house. I think you had one friend um who I adore. I won't name her, but I'm sure you know
Mhm.
what I'm talking about. She was the
Yeah.
only friend whose house you could spend a night over. Loved her mom, full of energy. I ran into her maybe like 4 years ago. Her mom still the same. So and she has a beautiful baby girl. So if she listens
It
to this
does.
podcast, she should know who I'm talking about. But
Mhm.
that's the only friend. I didn't let you spend a night at people's house. Then, when junior high and high school came, you had to deal with the mean girls, or because,
Mhm.
you had beauty and brains, you had the hater girls, feeling some type of way.
Mhm.
Um, and then I think as you graduated from high school and you decided to go away for college, it was like, whoa, like she's out the house. How am I gonna protect her from here? Like, I need a go gadget helicopter, because if somebody mess with my baby, I'm coming for him. But then I also had to let you, grow up and
Mhm.
uh fight your whatever battles that you may have had or been through that I may not even know about. I had to like trust that I raised you right,
Mhm.
and gave you the tools, that I knew to give in life, so that knew whatever situation may have come up, excuse me, how to handle it.
Mhm.
And then now, being clear across the United States, again, the same thing. I have
Mhm.
to, trust that I raised you right, so that you stay on your toes in whatever type of
Mhm.
situations that you may come across.
Yeah.
So you never
Yeah.
stop worrying. I
Yeah.
mean, like, it's not like, well, I guess some parents are like, oh, they're 18, get out, go ahead about your business. No,
Mhm.
that's not the reality for a
Yeah.
true parent. Let me say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that had came up and I was like, I never even thought about it like that. But yeah, like the worries
Mhm.
don't stop, but they do change because now
Right.
there's something new or different to worry about. Um,
Exactly.
so as we've grown, I think our relationship has also like evolved over time as well.
Mhm.
Um, what do you think are like the challenges and joys of navigating our different like life stages together? Because I think of like, everyone talks about the teen years, and then you know, um, even like something as simple as like the terrible twos or something like that. And then like
Mhm.
adult years are like completely still like new and fresh for me. What has been that aspect of how we've like grown up together but in just different stages of our lives?
Well, I think for me, because there's six of you all, and I may talk to you and you may have like a conversation about, an issue at work, or, maybe
Mhm.
something going on in the news. And then I'll get off the phone with you, and then I have to jump to, Barbie, or what's the other girl's name? Rapunzel,
Oh.
so it's like balancing. And then there's your brothers who are teen, and then your other brothers elementary. So it's really just trying to really balance and jump through all of those other conversations, which
Mhm.
sometimes just makes me a little crazy,
You
using
do
the
have a
term
full
lightly.
range.
Yeah, at the end of the day, because then it's like, now where am I at? And then you
Mhm.
guys look at me like something's wrong with me, but
Mhm.
I'm literally scrambled all over because I've had all of these conversations with all of you.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Well, let's talk about just for us then, like what
Mhm.
has it been like as our relationship has changed over the years? Like what has it been like um for you to kind of like navigate that? Because because I am the first, I was kind of like the first to kind of like trial and error everything. If you're a first child, you know that. Um, so what did that look like for you?
Well, I would say for you and I, it's been it for me. Now you
Mhm.
may say like, no, mom, but
Okay.
it flowed. Like, yeah, I think we had our hiccups and our bumps and
Mhm.
things of that sort, but I think I can honestly say it flowed for us. It wasn't hard to navigate at all for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
The distance, yes, but I think with the distance, you kind of set me up for that when you went to college for 4 years, you know.
Yeah.
So now that you are where you are now, um it's kind of the same, you know, except of course you don't come home as much, but
Mhm.
with technology, you know, we can talk, we can text, we can video chat, whatever. It's not hard for me to navigate at all. Like
Mhm.
sometimes our schedules, of course, because we're in different time zones, but
Yeah.
it's not hard to navigate.
Yeah. I would say for the most part, I agree. I think, like you said, like the hiccups along the way. I think those were like parts, but I feel like it's kind of hard to like not have hiccups and like
Mhm.
relationships and things like that.
Right.
Um, because like I feel like there were definitely points where I go to my friends, I'd be like, my mom's made me so mad. Like, um,
I
and
think everybody gets to that point where like
yeah,
they're cussing their parent out in their head, but they dare not say it out loud.
yeah. I don't think I ever cussed you out here in my head though, but yeah, I think you there are definitely times, as you know as well. But
Right.
I think that's something that's really cool is like we've gone over the humps. I think a lot of that also has to do with the things that were happening in our lives individually, and then that creates clashes. Like I always go back to like COVID times and like
Mhm.
having to like come back home and stuff. That was kind of like a hard part on me. And then like you were going through things as well. And then like I remember that kind of like clash. But I really do think like coming back from those things is what kind of like shows like the strength of like those
Mhm.
relationships. Um because like at the end of the day, like we're still like kind of like each other's people, and
Mhm.
we find our way back. um I do want to ask, like, what do you think has strengthened our bond?
That even though so let me back up. Let me be very clear. I've never intentionally tried to like pawn your siblings off on you, because I've always felt like they are my children. You are a sibling. Allow you to be a sibling. I never wanted to be that parent
Mhm.
that makes you watch your siblings and stop your life. But
Mhm.
I will say that when you're able, you have always been supportive,
Mhm.
to help me with them, or just supportive of me in general, even when I go through things and you're like,
Mhm.
okay, stop, mom, like, wait a minute, like, get you a mental health day, drink
Yeah.
some tea, or that you're very kind of aware, and that's probably because of our bond.
Mhm.
So that's what I will say. Just you have a really good heart
Oh,
in
thanks.
general.
Thanks.
Yes, girl. Yes.
Oh, yeah, I will say, I talk about this sometimes a lot too, because as as we have gotten older and things, like I found moments where I kind of had to teach you things, which I always find that's
Mm-hmm.
so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one ever is like, there's a point where you like also teach your parents.
Right.
um, and so that's always like, it's really cool to be like, oh, interesting. Like, you don't really know everything. And so I think as little kids, especially like, because you still have them, they think you know every single thing. Then as they get older, they start to realize and they're like, oh, okay, no. And things always
Right.
change too as well. Um, but yeah, no, I am super like I tell that to people a lot. Like I'm very self-aware. I'm very aware. Also I have a lot of patience. We talk about that. I have a lot of patience. So that just kind of helps just in general.
Yeah,
Work
because
and
I
all of
don't.
the above. Yeah,
I
that's
don't.
where we both. Yeah. um
But it's patience.
yeah. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but I didn't really go into depth. But what do you think keeps us together even amongst those times of tension?
I would have to still go back to, because we communicate with one another
Mm-hmm.
and we share, for the most part, I'm going to say, uh, what we may be going through at those points of life. So, like, if you call me and I may be kind of like irritable,
Mm-hmm.
I think that now, as you've grown older, you don't take it personal. Not that it's okay for me to be irritable and kind of
Mm-hmm.
snappy, but you just don't take it personal because, maybe like, okay, my
Yeah.
mom has a lot on her plate, blah, 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 blah. She needs to calm down. I'll talk to her later.
Yeah, I think I also, as I've gotten older too, I let you know, because I think sometimes you don't even know that you're coming off that way. So
Right.
yeah, communication for sure. Yeah.
Right. So I think that helps. Um, Knowing what one another has going on, even though we may not know everything, just
Mm-hmm.
communicating to know. So if I call you and you're kind of just like, which you never really are, but sometimes you're more tired based on whatever you have going on during that week, then
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like, okay, she's tired, versus like, what's wrong with her?
Mm-hmm.
She got a little stink attitude. So
Yeah.
I think, that helps. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it click. Oh, she's tired. She did X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
It's not personal. Call me later.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny you said that there have been times where you thought that was the case, where you're like, what's your problem? What's going on with you? And I'm like, oh, I'm just tired. You're like, oh,
Right.
okay. Um,
Right.
so yeah. But like that, like I said, like that communication for sure. Is super key. I think that was something I discovered over time, like getting older, especially like in my teen years. I don't think I was that problematic as a teen, as they say. I mean, you can say if it's otherwise, but I learned to communicate more, and I think it was figuring out how best to communicate, and then correct me if I'm wrong too, but I think you also kind of had to figure out what that looked like, because like sometimes communication could come off wrong maybe, or
Mhm.
it's like, oh, she just said this, but and it's like eventually figuring out like, oh, okay, she's voicing her thoughts and opinions and how she's feeling, and okay, and now it's time for me to process that. Does that make sense? Did I make sense with that?
Yes, and
Mhm.
like, let me add this really quickly too. I think, like, not I think, let me take that out.
Mhm.
In like my late 20s
Mhm.
to maybe like mid 30s
Mhm.
ish, not that I'm that old, let me say that. But I feel like I was in a negative space and carried a lot of negative energy,
Mhm.
as I continue to parent and continue to add more children into my family.
Mhm.
So it was like new children, growing children. I'm in
Mhm.
this negative space,
Mhm.
and I took everything personal. And looking
Mhm.
back now, I can see
Yeah.
I took it personal. But
Mhm.
in that moment, it was like, like it was
Yeah.
just, ready to go from 0 to 1,000.
Yeah.
So that took for me to learn as well.
Mhm. And I will say, which is once again, something that you don't know as a kid, like seeing your parent also like grow. So like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for sure, like you now is very different from like you and for when I was in high school and things like that. So like it's really cool to like see your growth, and um once again, first child. So I kind of see all the phases, especially from, because you had me so young too. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, I do want to go into like lessons learned and like personal growth. Speaking of that, what are some lessons you have learned from being a mother?
There is no right way to do something. Everyone has a different style to do things. Do it your way, what's comfortable for you. That's one thing.
Mhm.
Second, children will make mistakes. It's
Mhm.
okay, because I can say with you and your brothers, and you all are 3 years apart, it was like, oh my gosh, like they made a mistake, they did this. Really quickly,
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember, but I thought about this like a month ago. I
Mhm.
was making some chili. Do you remember this?
Not
I
you
don't know.
making chili, but
Making some chili, and I was like, here, put this water for something I was doing on the counter.
Mm-hmm.
And you poured all this water in the pot of chili. I think you probably were like, I'm gonna say you were probably like 10 or 11. And
Okay.
I remember I was so like, you went to your room and you were like, I just poured the water in the chili. And I was like, I didn't tell you to pour the water in the chili.
Mm-hmm.
And so like today it would have been like, okay, like we gonna fix it, and mix it and whatever. It was too much water, but that was something that was overreacted upon. Kids make mistakes. I feel like you have to be very direct, as I'm sure you know, with them. You can't just say, put this over there. It's like, pick up this cup and put this over there on the left side of the stove.
Literally, yeah.
You can't just, so I think that's helped me over the years.
Yeah. They call that like learning to gentle parent, some people are definitely more gentler. I've seen, and like shout out to them. But yeah, like literally, like something as because I think something that I've seen a lot of people do is like, a 5-year-old spills a whole bunch of stuff on the floor in accident. Oh my gosh, why would you spill that? And so instead, it's like, it's okay. You want to help me clean it up? Things like that. So that's like something I see more, and it's actually given a title now. Yeah.
Well, that's good because your sister dropped something the other day, and as soon as she dropped it, she looked at me and she was like, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. And I was like, it's okay. Like, let's clean it up. But me back then probably would have been like, but
yeah.
Live and learn. That's what I can say.
That's why I definitely say like first children, like trial and error. But that's why also too, like as I've gotten older too, like I don't kind of hold anything because like once again, like being a self-aware and just like aware of everything as well, like you're understanding things, and I'm at least like glad to say like because you have grown, like my little sister and my younger siblings could see like a gentle parent in that process. So that's really cool. So
not too gentle though, not too
yeah,
gentle.
I said a gentler.
They be trying to test it sometimes.
I said a gentler. How has motherhood shaped you as a person?
I put you all first in everything I do, even though you and your brother are technically quote unquote, adults. I just put you all first in everything I do. So that's how I start my day. Like, yes, a woman first, but then it's like right now, a mom, at this point in life anyway. So that's what I would say. Everything is like about my kids. I need to have more time for myself, but
Yeah.
until that I'll figure that out and balance that out, then it's just I'll put you all first.
When did you realize you started doing that? Like obviously you started doing it pretty like the minute, you became one, but when did you realize like, oh, like I no longer put myself first?
Whew.
Or just
I
kind of
would
just kept
say
going?
I would say really, really, probably when I was started going through my divorce, actually, because it was like everything was coming before me, like, even to work at that time, my children, my spouse, everything. And then I was exhausted. I had nothing left in my cup for myself. So then, of course, the divorce was done. And so that was like, okay, woo. So then once I finally start to tap in with myself and heal from that experience, then it was like, okay, I'm still doing a lot for the kids. And sometimes I was doing over, things that could have waited to the point where I was doing so much. I feel like not so much for you because you were, doing for yourself, but everyone else, all your siblings, that it was like, I'm still doing so much for them. I don't have enough time for myself.
Yeah.
So now I'm aware of that. And I try to balance, not so much. I could
Mhm.
try harder to balance, but yeah, it's been some time. But I really focused on that when I was
Mhm.
going through the divorce.
Yeah, I definitely think like I would say also too around that time, um, you started like traveling more, trying to like go do like
Mm-hmm.
say mom things like
Right.
travel, or a staycation or things like that, just to
Mm-hmm.
like take that pause and step out. Would you I like correct me if I'm wrong, the first time you had been on a plane in how long was like in recent
Yeah.
years?
Yeah. In
Yeah.
2020, when I started
We went to
going,
Seattle, right? Was that when we went to Seattle or was it before that?
no, because 2020, one of my good friends had a birthday celebration where a bunch of us went to Las Vegas.
Oh yeah.
And remember, so that was the end of 2020. And prior to that, I was in that marriage and I wasn't traveling, I wasn't doing anything.
Hmm.
Like I feel like kind of lost myself for a minute. So once we went there in November 2020, then it was all downhill. We went to Seattle and I went to
Hmm.
Seattle again. Then my cousin at the time stayed in Las Vegas, so I would pop in a few times
Hmm.
to see her, during that time frame. So yeah,
Yeah. I would say a uphill
yep.
instead of a downhill, yeah.
Now I'm in the
um,
middle of the hill. I need to go back up.
yeah, things are expensive. But
They are.
you did at least do one trip this year. Yeah. You came to New
Oh, I
York for the
did.
first time.
Yeah, I did. Well,
Hmm.
two.
What was the other one?
My little cousin graduated,
Oh
remember?
yeah, Los
Mm-hmm.
Angeles.
Right. So twice this year so far.
Mhm. Okay. um, what are some growth moments you have seen in me?
I'm going to go back to what we said a while ago. You
Hmm.
have patience that I don't know anyone else on this living earth has that much patience, especially in your profession.
Hmm.
The way that you stepped out on faith and just, relocated to Never Ever Land.
Oh my gosh.
And I think you express yourself more. I remember you being a teenager and I would like ask you what's wrong and you would just like clam up and I'd be like, what's wrong? And you would just look at me like I was
You
crazy.
see why I didn't say anything though? Yeah.
You would look at me and it was crazy. You wouldn't tell me what's wrong and you may be
Mhm.
crying or frustrated. And I'll be like, what's wrong? And you'll just be like looking at me and I'll be like, now you can, express your feelings and say,
Mhm.
this is what's wrong, or this is what's bothering me, even if you choose not to go into detail at that time. And I feel like that's very important. You never want to silence yourself. You always
Mhm.
want to whomever express your feelings. So
Yeah.
that's big for you because
Yeah.
you in teen years did not.
Yeah, I definitely say that too. I learned to speak up for myself a bit more. Um, especially like before people would say like sly comments and I'd be like, uh-huh. So maybe now it's a little bit different, like, give a little comeback, you know. Um,
You got older. You got some of your mama in your girl. Like, bitch,
yeah. I will say though, you definitely help with that because you would always tell me like, you know, because I was really like unproblematic. I wasn't about the drama. So like, but people will pull you into it. So I remember you would tell me all the time about like different things. And yeah, so that helped a lot too. I was like, I gotta talk a little bit more like her because, you
mm-hmm.
know, but going back to the thing real quick, what you said in regards to me crying, fun fact for the listeners. So when I get mad, I cry also. So at times when my siblings would make me angry or things like that. I don't know. There was this one time when we lived on Marigold specifically, and I remember my brother had made me mad about something, and because we were always getting into it at some point, and I was just crying, and you came upstairs. You're like, "Why are you crying? Say what's wrong." And I was like, And I was just crying. And I was just at that point, I was like, never mind. I don't even want to talk anymore. That's pretty much where I was at. To give you a little internal. I was like, I'll just sit by myself. um And then usually though, I end up figuring it out. I kind of tend to do that now a little bit. Not cry and run to myself, but like internally like process things, which I think helps me also, which is why I end up being so self-aware.
Right.
Just kind of figuring out what why I'm not that I get angry very often, but feelings in general. Um, okay, some closeout questions. What are your hopes and dreams for the future, both for yourself and for your children? So we'll start with for yourself first.
For myself, I would say find balance,
Like
work-life
between, oh,
balance,
okay.
family life balance, just so I can have time for me. So that's one of my goals for myself. I do want to travel more, but I have some things also that I need to balance out. I need to find, let me say this, I need to find balance before I can make additional plans for myself.
So balance is first.
Mm-hmm.
Out of
Now,
curiosity, what kind of like steps have you planned out to figure that out? Or like, do you know what the possible key is to find that answer?
self-care days are extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm realizing that now, and knowing when you are on a mental overload to where you just need to step back and have that time for yourself also. And whether you need to reorganize some things that are going on in your life, whatever that is, you just have to be aware of what's going on in your life. That's what I would say.
Okay. So balance is number one for yourself. What are some hopes and dreams in the future for your children?
Whew. That's such a funny question because all of you all are on different levels. Um, I would say to continue to grow, um, to be open and willing to learn, to communicate, because your siblings, well, two of them don't communicate well at all. And that's something you have to learn. And I'm going to keep being the teacher with that. Um, for you all, of course, to be safe. This world is crazy. Just be, aware and to follow your dreams. Whatever your dream may be, someone somewhere is going to have something to say about it. Bump what people have to say. Follow your dream. Don't be afraid. If it doesn't work out, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Set a new dream, set a new goal, but at least follow it. Walk down that path at least.
Yeah. I do want to say input. I am truly grateful that that has been your opinion, and like, so I don't even think I ever told you this. So remember when I had done like no, I was on my last year of college and I was halfway through the year already. It was January, so 2020, and I had because it was most of the year, I had done my cognitive and behavioral neuroscience major all this time, but I minored in dance. And I made a call to you, but it probably wasn't as intense as you thought it would be. But for me, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna call her, and I think
Oh,
I'm
when
gonna
you
tell
said
her.
you changed you wanted to do dance.
Yeah. So I remember I
I
was like,
was like,
okay.
okay, do it.
Yeah, but I don't even know why it was like such like a worry for me. But I remember when I called you and I told you, and you were like, yeah, like what? And then I literally ended the phone call, and it was like, this is gonna sound so extra, but I literally cried like happy tears of just like relief.
What?
I did.
What you was crying for?
Because I was just like grateful. I was like, I was like, I'm on my fourth year, and she was just like super cool with that, and she was just like, yeah, do it. I was like,
Girl, you do not
oh,
want to ever be stuck in doing nothing that you want to do. If you would
yeah.
have been like, I'm done with this school, I'm about to go join the circus, I would have been like, girl, if the circus is gonna make you happy, then go ahead, get on
Yeah.
the elephant, do a trick, whatever you want to do, because you have to do what makes you happy in life.
Yeah. Which is I'm grateful because not every person gets that like
Mm-hmm.
privilege, unfortunately, because I do know people whose families kind of push them into careers. Or I've even heard like really worse scenarios where they're like, I'm only paying, I was lucky enough to go to, we don't have the money like that. So I was
Right.
lucky enough to go to college and not have to worry about that. But some people, like, their parents only pay to go for them to go to college if they major in certain things. And so I think that's pretty wild. But
Yeah, because who want to be unhappy? If I'm gonna be miserable, let it be because I chose this to be miserable. I don't want to
mhm,
be miserable because my parents or somebody else,
mhm,
thinks that I should do this. Like, and
yeah.
I don't want to be miserable because myself either,
Mhm.
but definitely because of no one else.
Somebody else, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that was why it was like, that's why I cried though. It was like
Oh
a
my
it
gosh.
was me being a little emotional
What did you
because
think I was gonna say?
I don't know. I think for me, I was just like, I'm gonna see what she's gonna say. And I was like, I think it was just like me being anxious as I always am. It was just like, I don't know what she's gonna say. Like, okay, we're gonna see. And then
Do
it
what
was,
makes you happy. And
yeah.
sometimes we have to do things or get in careers that necessarily don't make us happy, but like at
Yeah.
least strive towards your goal. Like, why would you want to do something that, you know,
Hmm.
absolutely not.
Yeah. But no,
Mm-mm.
it wasn't because I thought you'd say, it was more just like, I don't know what she's gonna say. And then like it was just like a grateful like moment. It was just me being extra. Um
Very.
um last question. What advice would you give? Let's go specifically other young parents. Um
Mhm.
and then after that, for people in general in regards to parenting, whether they're a parent now or not.
So, young parents, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it because you can. You just have to make sure that you put your child or children first. It's going to be hard, but it can be done. And I'll take it a step further. You can finish school, you can go to the limit. I just did not at that time. Do I have regrets? Yes, but you can. So that would be
Mhm,
my advice. Keep your children first. Make sure you have a good relationship with them. Don't drop them off at everybody's house. Keep them close to you and just, you know, keep a good relationship with them. That's what I would say.
okay. And then what about for people in general in regards to parenting?
Make time for you.
Okay.
Keep time for you, make time for you, check in with your kids. It's so much going on. It's so much going on in schools. It's a different time with social media. Communicate
Mhm,
with your kids, have a relationship with them, check in with them, even on your bad day. Make sure you check in with your kids. Don't isolate from them.
mhm.
Spend time with them. That's what I would say. But make time for you.
Yeah. So also in regards to that, finding that balance, like you talked
Mm-hmm.
about. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you for joining my podcast.
You're welcome.
Hopefully, to bringing the goal is to bring you back on more times. And I'm just excited that we got to explore like kind of like an intro, like
Mm-hmm.
introducing people to my mom. But I'm excited also to explore more in future episodes. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed getting some insight and possible relatability to this topic and conversation. Tell us your thoughts about the episode in the Q&A section as always. And if you're comfortable, feel free to share your experience with parenting and relationships, whether you are a parent yourself or you are a child of a parent. Make sure that you follow and like this podcast to stay notified when new episodes drop. Share it with friends, share it with family. You can also follow me at KaVonna on Instagram to stay updated as well. Get some sunshine. Have an amazing week. I will see you next week on the Introvert Social Hour. Thanks for joining.